Picture this. Your child comes home from school. You are at the door, or maybe in the kitchen, and you ask how their day was. Fine. You ask who they played with. Everyone. You ask if anything happened. No. And you move on, because that is a normal conversation. Because they seem fine. Because you asked and they answered, and that is what good parents do. And there is absolutely nothing wrong with you for accepting that answer. But here's what I need you to hear today. That exchange, that small, ordinary, completely unremarkable moment, may be one of the reasons your child is learning to be alone in a room full of people. Not because you failed, but because what a child learns about connection is not taught in conversations about connection. It is absorbed through hundreds of tiny moments exactly like that one. And if the pattern your child absorbs is that relationships are surface level, that fine is an acceptable depth, that no one really presses past the first answer, then the lesson their nervous system records is this. Closeness is not something people actually do, it is something people perform. And the child who learns that carries it into every friendship and every relationship they will ever have. Today we are going to talk about 3 things loving, well-meaning parents do that quietly teach children that connection is something to manage rather than something to need. And more importantly, what to do instead. Before we get into the specific patterns, you need to understand one thing about how your child's brain builds its social wiring. The Harvard Center on the Developing Child calls it serve and return. Every time your child reaches out, through a word, a look, a complaint about a friend, that is a serve. And every time you respond with presence and attention, that is a return. When that loop is disrupted, not through neglect, but through well-meaning patterns that quietly redirect the reaching itself, the foundation for connection forms on unstable ground. Your child comes home from school and something happened. Someone was mean, they got left out at lunch, a friend said something that stung. You can see it on their face, and something inside you activates. Because you love this child, and you cannot stand to watch them suffer through something you could fix. So you fix it. You text the other parent. You email the teacher. You arrange a different play date with a safer friend. You smooth it all over before bedtime. And your child feels better. And you feel better. But here's what happened underneath that fix. Your child's nervous system just recorded a lesson. When connection breaks, I cannot repair it. Someone bigger and more capable has to do it for me. Researchers studying peer conflict in early childhood have found that navigating disagreements with other children is one of the primary ways kids develop social competence, including the ability to read emotions, understand intentions, and repair a rupture in a relationship. When you solve the conflict for them, you are removing the exact experience their brain needs to build the skill of staying connected through difficulty. The child who never learns to sit in a social rupture and find their way back becomes the adult who withdraws at the first sign of tension. The adult with many acquaintances and no one they would call at 2 in the morning. Because deep connection requires surviving conflict, and they never got to practice. What to do instead is not to ignore the pain. Sit with them in it. Name it. Then ask them what they think they could do about it. Coach them through the repair instead of making it for them. You are not abandoning them. You are standing beside them while they learn the single most important social skill they will ever need. Monday is piano, Tuesday is soccer, Wednesday is tutoring, Thursday is art, Friday is a supervised playdate with an itinerary, Saturday is a tournament, and Sunday, finally, your child has free time. But they are so tired that they sit on the couch with a screen, alone, recovering from a week designed entirely by adults who love them. You built this schedule because you want them to have every opportunity. But here's what the schedule is teaching their nervous system. Connection is something that happens in organized, time-limited, adult-supervised blocks. Being alone with another person with nothing planned is unfamiliar, maybe even uncomfortable. Research has found that limited childhood friendship experiences, including insufficient opportunity to form deep bonds, predicted increased social isolation and loneliness well into adulthood. The adult this produces is excellent in structured social settings. They can work a room, but they do not know how to just be with another person. They fill every silence. They have a full calendar and an empty inner circle. What to do instead is simpler than it sounds. Leave gaps. Deliberate, unstructured, open gaps in your child's week. Hours where they can be bored with a friend, and where connection has to be invented rather than organized. That boredom is not wasted time. It is where depth is born. Now pay attention to how your child sees you handle hard things. The crisis at work, you manage it on your own. The disagreement with your partner, you process it privately. The grief, the overwhelm, the moments when you genuinely need another person, you handle those behind closed doors. Because you are the parent. Because you are supposed to be the strong one. But here's what your child is watching every single day. Strong people do not need anyone. Reaching for connection is something children do. Growing up means learning to handle everything yourself. When your child never sees you reach for anyone, they learn that the reaching is supposed to stop, that at some point you graduate from needing people. A longitudinal study of over 2,000 individuals in the United Kingdom found that loneliness in adolescence was associated with elevated risk of mental health difficulties that persisted into adulthood. The loneliest teenagers were not always the ones without friends. They were often the ones who had learned that needing anyone was weakness. The adult this produces is surrounded by people, but profoundly alone. They can give support beautifully, but cannot receive it. They sit in the dark with their pain because asking for help feels like a failure they have been trained since childhood to avoid. What to do instead is not to burden your child with your problems. It is simply to let them see you reach. I had a really hard day, so I called my friend to talk about it. I am struggling with this, so I'm going to ask your father to help me figure it out. Your child just watched you model the most important lesson about connection they will ever learn, that needing people is not weakness. It is what human beings are designed for. So what does all of this mean for you? It means that loneliness does not begin with rejection. It begins in homes full of love, where parents solve every conflict before the child can learn to repair, where every hour is enriched, but no hour is truly open, and where strength is modeled as never needing anyone. You do not need to be a perfect parent. You need to be a connected one. Let them struggle through the social pain with a coach beside them, not a fixer in front of them. Leave open, unstructured time where depth can grow, and let them see you reach for other people when things are hard. The next time your child says fine, sit down. Stay close. Ask one more question, and if they still say fine, that is okay. Because the pattern you are building is not about one conversation. It is about hundreds of them. None of what you have been doing was wrong. Almost all of it was love expressed in the way our culture taught you to express it. But now you see what is underneath, and seeing changes everything. If this gave you one moment to look at differently, share it with a parent who needs it. Tell me in the comments which of these patterns you recognized. And stay with us, because this conversation is just getting started. The child who watches you reach is the child who will know how to reach when it matters most.